Hello and welcome into another episode of Snakes Territory. I'm your host, Jesse Friedman, alongside the one and only Jack Sommers, who is out at Chase Field. And Jack, I guess we have to be careful here. We are not here to declare that the Diamondbacks season is officially turning around, that all of the conversations about selling are out the window. But tonight was as good a start to the second half as you probably could have imagined.
Look, we got to ride the wave, Jesse. We got to ride the wave.
Brandon Pfaadt, Jack, 7 scoreless innings. Obviously was outstanding in his last outing as well. Pitched into the 8th inning, actually completed 8 innings in San Diego to finish off the first half of the season. He was similarly very good here in this game.
Yeah, he was just in the rocking chair, as they like to say. I mean, he just seemed to fired strikes. I don't remember what the final was, but at one point he was 15 of 20 for first pitch strikes and didn't walk a batter. He said, here it is, hit it. He had his good sweeper tonight. And they hit a few hard, but that's okay. Outfield made some plays, and, he did well. It was very impressive. That's 2 in a row from him. So, maybe Brandon Pfaadt is truly back. I think it was impressive that he responded to being called to pitch the first game out of the break, knowing how important it is for their chances to get on a roll. He said, I was ready, whether it's the first or the 5th game, but I think it says a lot that the team chose him to go first for whatever reasons they had. But, it was kind of like a big game Brandon situation, and he came through.
7 innings, 4 hits allowed, no runs, as we said, no walks, 6 strikeouts. You mentioned the sweeper, Jack. That is Brandon Pfaadt's best pitch. At least it should be. We know that when he's at his best, it's generally because that pitch is really working. And he had 8 whiffs on that pitch tonight, 8 whiffs on 18 swings, a 48% chase rate. He made Cardinals hitters look fairly ridiculous on several occasions, swinging at that sweeper when it was multiple feet outside the zone, I think. But that's when Brandon Pfaadt is at his best, is when he's able to do that with that pitch. I was looking at some of the numbers last year, Jack. Last season, Pfaadt had 15 games where he had 5 or more whiffs on that sweeper. This was just the 4th time this season that he has had 5 or more whiffs on that pitch. And of course, today it was 8. So a really, really good sign for him on that front.
Yeah, he said himself, this was the best sweeper I've had all year. Just plain and simple. He said, it's my best pitch, and this is the best one I've had all year.
The cutter continues to be an interesting pitch as well, Jack. I know he didn't throw it all that much, but I still have to mention it. He threw 7 cutters in this game. There were 5 swings on that pitch and 4 balls in play, and all 4 of those balls in play were outs. And opposing hitters are now 2 for 21 against that pitch. That's pretty intriguing for me, Jack, as Brandon Pfaadt continues to find ways to neutralize left-handed hitters. We know that's been a problem for him for a while, and the Cardinals didn't have a ton of left-handed hitters in the lineup, so I think it makes sense we didn't see a ton of that pitch in this game, but when he did throw it, it was once again pretty effective.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see pitchers develop and add new pitches and actually start to learn how to command them and control them and sequence them in the right ways. It's humbling. It's a reminder. You can't predict baseball. When we see pitchers make these kinds of turnarounds, it just tells us, hey, these guys are better at baseball than anything we're ever going to do in our lives. And so we have to remember that constantly.
Speak for yourself, Jack. All right. You mentioned earlier that there were a few hard hit balls against Pfaadt, and that is true. I think it's worth mentioning. While the results were great and the sweeper looked as good as it has all year, he did still give up his share of hard contact in this game. I think the Cardinals had a 304 expected batting average by the time he exited the game, which is high, but you're not going to read all that much into that number in just one start. He did get some help from Alek Thomas, though, Jack. That was a pretty impressive play. I believe it was Jordan Walker, a ball that would have been a home run in 27 out of 30 ballparks, according to StatCast. Alek Thomas didn't rob a home run, but one of the more impressive catches that we've seen from him all season.
Yeah, I mean, from my memory, that's probably right there, top 1, 2, 3 catches I've ever seen from him, and it's because of the wall. right? I mean,
Yeah.
throw all the catch probability and all that out the window. The fact is he was running full blast into that wall. And I was actually really impressed that he didn't hurt himself doing it. Like, he caught that ball and managed to just kind of turn himself just enough so that he didn't, face plant into it, but he didn't wreck his shoulder at the same time. That was almost as impressive to me as catching the ball, was not getting hurt in the process.
Do you want to guess what the catch probability was? Have you seen it?
Oh, no. No.
It was 60%. 60% is the report that I got, which, yeah, I think this is well established at this point that catch probability is an interesting stat. We all, at least I find myself curious about it every time we see a play like that made, but it's also one of the more sketchy new metrics that has come along here in the past few years. I don't know if 60% really passes the smell test. And I have a feeling that Alek Thomas, if he were told that the catch probability is 60%, he probably wouldn't feel so good about that either.
Yeah, I think he would just laugh it off and say that's, meaningless. The stat is meaningless. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Catch probability does not work.
Not yet. Maybe there will come a point where they're able to account for the fence at a certain point, and maybe it would become a lot more interesting. But when you don't account for the presence of the wall, like, that's a pretty important variable in these plays. So undoubtedly, it leads to some numbers that are a little bit odd. So yeah, Brandon Pfaadt, though, really, really good across the board in this game. He threw 14 pitches or less in every inning until the 7th, when he threw 22. Got into a little bit of trouble there, but was able to work his way out of it. Just really impressive across the board for Pfaadt. 21 of 25 sinkers were strikes for him in this game. There were 9 called strikes on that pitch. That's also a really good sign for him. So another really nice outing for Brandon Pfaadt. Of course, the Diamondbacks did not win solely because of Brandon Pfaadt. The offense also played a big role in this game. D-backs jumped out ahead 3-0 in the bottom of the second. There were 2 outs with a runner at first in that inning, but the D-backs were able to string something together. Alek Thomas hit a single. Jose Herrera followed that with an RBI single. Corbin Carroll drew a walk. And then Geraldo Perdomo followed with a 2-run single, making it a 3-0 game. Perdomo in the game, Jack, as we show here on the screen, 2 for 4. He also had a triple. 2 runs batted in. Another nice showing for Perdomo as he continues to be near the top of this D-backs lineup.
The thing that was so impressive to me was his first swing at that. I mean, it's with 2 outs, first of all, right? It's a 2-out at bat, bases loaded. I mean, he was stranded at third off that triple in the first inning, so you can't come up empty there. And his first swing, he swings for the fences. He tried to hit a grand slam. I mean, he just totally unloaded. One of his big Perdomo, spin out down to the knee swings, trying to pull the ball into the right field bleachers, and he missed on it. And then he just, all right, well, I'm just going to dunk it out into center field, and he totally went with the pitch and adjusted his approach and got the job done. So to me, the ability to just kind of adjust back and put the bat on the ball, behind in the count, 2 out at bat, bases loaded. That was really, to my mind, that was the game right there. I mean, obviously, those 2 runs weren't enough to win the game, but it was the tone setter for me.
Yeah, you mentioned those runs wouldn't have been enough. Things did get a little more interesting than D-backs fans might have liked at the end of this game. John Curtis came in for the 9th inning and allowed 3 runs. Torey Lovullo had to get Kevin Ginkel warming up, I believe, Jack. Is that true? Ginkel warmed up at the end of the game?
Ginkel did get up, and Ginkel did get up. And at the end of the game, fortunately, I think he was just about hot. Probably 3, 4, 5 more pitches, and he was ready to come in. I think if Curtis didn't get that double play, we would have seen Ginkel in the game.
Yeah, always. Although Ginkel was not used, it is always unfortunate when the Diamondbacks have to even just warm up that guy. We've seen it with Shelby Miller a number of times this season. Ginkel now occupying that same role. Not great, but as you mentioned, John Curtis gets the double play to end the game. Adrian Del Castillo, of course, a big story in this one, 3 for 4 with an RBI. He came through with an RBI single in that bottom of the third where the D-backs turned their 3-0 lead into a 5-0 lead. And that's a segue into our DraftKings player spotlight. Jack, I got to hand it to you. The Diamondbacks called up Adrian Del Castillo immediately after the break, and I know this is something you wrote about recently and something we also talked about in our last episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun when you actually analyze something and think, okay, this is not only what they should do, I think it's what they're going to do, and it turns out to be exactly right. It's more fun to get it that way than just be told. But it was fairly obvious. I mean, they needed more punch from the left side in a DH slot. He was hitting well. It gives them the third catcher option. We asked Torrey about that. Certainly does give him the opportunity if he needs to pinch hit. Of course, Torrey went on to say, although Jose Herrera is having much better at bats and et cetera, and he gave all the love that he needed to give to Herrera. But at the same time, bottom line is he can now pinch hit for the catcher. So, nice job by Del Castillo to come up and make an immediate impact. One of the things that Torrey said was that he was doing a great job of really just waiting on his pitch. Checked off on a pitch a little outside, a little inside, got the ball right, we're in the zone that he was looking for. And he drove it up the middle 3 times. Twice it got through, and once it bounced off the pitcher. So, it was very impressive approach and very impressive at bats.
And it really could be a big benefit to this Diamondbacks lineup if Adrian Del Castillo is able to maintain some positive production in that DH slot against righties. We've been talking about it for a while when Pavin Smith was healthy. It really had been a few months since he was consistently productive in that spot. And that's a spot where the D-backs are used to getting a lot of production. I mean, Pavin Smith in April this year was fantastic. Of course, Jock Peterson, what he did for this team in the middle of the lineup last year out of the DH slot, the lineup just has a different feel to it when you're getting a lot of production out of that slot in your lineup. And I know it's a small sample size, Jack, and you can't go too crazy, but Adrian Del Castillo has 91 career plate appearances at this point, and he has a 921 OPS. So do with that what you will.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where things land in the long run. Regression is a harsh mistress. We say it all the time, or I say it all the time. And sooner or later, his average is going to drop below 300. I mean, almost nobody hits 300 these days. So, it's not reasonable to have that expectation. But, the man can hit. He hits the ball hard. He can hit with power. He bats from the left side, and he can really hit right-handers really well. So, this is a nice spot for him. He's, great guy. He's easy to talk to, fun interview, always very humble, smiling, regardless of the situation. So, from the media side, he's a fun guy to talk and interview with. We were joking with him earlier, just, before the scrum, during spring training. There's a bin that they have to steam their mitts and to keep them soft. And during spring training, he'd dropped one of his catcher's mitts in there, and he forgot about it. And it was in there overnight and 12, 15 hours or whatever. And he just happened to go and grab it as we were standing there, and he pulled it out, and it fell apart brisket off a bone. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. All his teammates were coming around. I mean, the mitt completely disintegrated. So he's got a great sense of humor. He's like, oh, I forgot about that. That was funny as heck. So, not every guy is just as easygoing and open as that. So that's a nice little added bonus with Adrian Del Castillo. You just get a really good guy and a good teammate.
Well, if you've never bet on baseball before, it is easy with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. You can pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. Jack, I know you have a thought here on what people might be able to go with over at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I know this is maybe feels like a bit of a bummer after a solid Diamondbacks win to start the second half.
Yeah, well, when I looked at this, I mean, I thought, I would take the under on the basis of I believe the team is likely to sell and, move 2 or 3, maybe not all 4 or 5 free agents, but move a couple of them or 2 or 3 of them, and that might impact their ability to, maintain 80-something win pace. So my pick would be under. Obviously, tonight's a nice night, so I want to dwell on that too much. But the point is that if the D-backs sell, then the under's probably a pretty good number here.
At least prior to the start of tonight's game, the odds here were plus 100. So you could get plus 100 betting the under on 79.5 wins for the Diamondbacks in 2025. Yeah, maybe people are feeling positive after tonight and they want to take the over instead. You can do that. Whatever floats your boat. Those are all options for you over at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Well, Jack, we had a whole lot of roster moves come through prior to the game on Friday. It was not just Adrian Del Castillo getting called up from AAA Reno. It was also the Diamondbacks selecting Trevor Richards from AAA Reno. He is now with the big league club. The team sent Juan Murillo down as the first half of the season ended, so we knew there would be a corresponding move there. It winds up that it's Trevor Richards being brought up from AAA Reno. The D-backs also signed Sergio Alcantara as a major league free agent, which just feels so right. Sergio Alcantara, and I believe this is it's either his 6th or his 7th stint with the Diamondbacks. Do we know, Jack, which one of those it is?
We looked through his transaction logs and counted 6. He himself said 7. So
Okay.
I don't know which is correct, but 6 or 7. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Alcantara was in the Diamondbacks organization for parts of last season, 2023, and 2022. And of course, well before that as well, I believe he was part of the JD Martinez trade, Jack, if I'm not going crazy. He was part of the package for JD Martinez to the Detroit Tigers back in 2017. So there's a lot of history here. He is just here for theoretically a short time, Jack. And the reason for that is that Ketel Marte has been placed on the restricted list. Seemed like the D-backs were maybe hesitant to go into specifics about why this was. I know Torey has just said it's a personal situation, but it's also pretty obvious that Ketel, his house being robbed while he was at the All-Star game on Tuesday, it's not a coincidence that this happened right after that.
Yeah, Torey alluded to that incident as part of the reason. Now it may not be all of the reason. There's kind of a sense that there's more to this than just that, being upset about having your house robbed. But, certainly that's a violation. The sense of safety that one might feel after such an incident. Apparently, there was breaking and entering, forcibly entered. It was a high dollar, high volume incident. Obviously a lot of valuables got stolen. So, I'm sure he feels extremely violated and vulnerable. It's been a tough year for him, and Torey stood by him. And he said, they're savages, talking about the people that would do stuff like this. Yesterday during his press conference, he also, talked about, he used the word savages when asked about the fact that Ketel's house got broken into. So when he spoke today, explaining why he went on the restricted list, he kind of alluded to that. So clearly it's part of it. Whether it's all of it, we just don't know. I mean, and people can speculate. People will speculate, including myself. We all wonder. But, we'll find out what we find out when we know. At this point in time, it's a tough situation, obviously, for Ketel and for the team. Torey's obviously very disappointed that he doesn't have his best player on the team. Didn't hurt him tonight. These things are cumulative, right? May not hurt him today, but if it goes on for very long, it could be a factor.
Sounds like it's just going to be something pretty short as far as we know, Jack. I mean, there's no definitive timeline here, but maybe just a couple days and then he's back with the big league team, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Torey said he did not expect it to go on for a long time. He expected it to be for a short period. He needs a few days. That's the way. The way it was framed led me to believe that it's probably the weekend, but we'll see.
Other roster moves, there are somehow still more. The D-backs also optioned Tristan English down to AAA Reno. That was really the corresponding move for bringing Adrian Del Castillo up to the majors. And then the final move there, Jack, is quite notable. The D-backs transferred Gabriel Moreno to the 60-day injured list. This was to help create a 40-man roster spot for all of the moves that they made. And this is a tricky situation. I mean, oftentimes we see guys move to the 60-day, and it's more of a formality than anything else. You already knew that they were going to be out for at least 60 days from when the injury originally happened. But in this case, we didn't necessarily know that. I mean, I believe it's retroactive to June the 16th. So this means Gabriel Moreno is not eligible to return to the big leagues until mid-August.
Correct. And the timeline here is a little weird. I mean, prior to the All-Star break, Torey had informed us that Gabby had another follow-up MRI and the fracture had not healed. And so he was going to be a while longer before he could, heal up completely, be asymptomatic, not have any pain, and be able to resume baseball activities. Yesterday, he said that Gabby would have a CT scan next week, and he was moving towards being asymptomatic. Today, when speaking on the radio, and even when he first started giving his answers, he started to say, well, Gabby's close. And I kind of spoke up. I said, hey, wait a minute. He's not close. He just got put on the 60-day. He can't come back before August 15th. And Torey clarified. He said, oh, I meant he's close to being asymptomatic. So Torey's still confident that at some point in the next week to 10 days, he can begin baseball activities. And he has been down, at that point, he'll have been down for a while. But it just feels like to me that, this thing is healing slowly. Now, I pushed on him a little bit, and I said, hey, the way everything went down, was it a bad idea to let him try to play through it when they did? And he was insistent. He said, look, they had done an X-ray, they had done an MRI. It showed no fracture at that point, and he would never have let him go out on the field, if the information from the medical team indicated that he could do more damage. So he didn't believe that the situation they're in now is a result of letting him play those 3 games that he played, because the injury happened June 6th. He played the 10th and then hit a home run, and then the 13th and the 14th. And then he went on the IL, on the 19th after getting another MRI that finally revealed this fracture. So that's the timeline. That's the situation. It's concerning. Look, Gabby's been somewhat injury prone. I mean, from the start of 2023 to now, he's started I actually calculated through August 15th, because he's not going to play any games before then. So of the possible 446 games that the Diamondbacks have between the start of his career here and August 15th of this year, he started 222 of them, basically 50%. So, that's an issue. I mean, he had last year he had the thumb and the groin injury. The year before that, he had the shoulder injury. I don't know if everyone remembers, in June of 2023, why is Carson Kelly playing? Well, it turns out that, he was suffering with the shoulder injury and missing games. And finally, July 13th, they put him on the IL that year, and he missed 3-4 weeks then. So this is the guy we got. He's a great catcher. He's above average hitter, but he's somewhat injury prone. And that's just the way it is.
Gabby's played 53 games so far this season. So if we just imagine him coming back in mid-August and playing most of the rest of the games, I mean, maybe he could play, 30 of the last 45 in a very best case scenario where he does come back immediately when he's first eligible. That would put his game total for the year at 83. So there you are, basically a Gabby Moreno playing half the games. It is really unfortunate that for as promising as he's looked, this has just kind of been the reality for him so far in his big league career. I know we have some injury updates on other guys as well, Jack. I guess Shelby Miller, maybe the most pressing name that comes to mind. What did you hear about Shelby today?
Yeah, Shelby is starting a throwing program, and he's going to throw a bullpen tomorrow. And then a few days later, he'll throw live. The same goes for, I believe, Jalen Beeks, and Ryan Thompson has also begun his throwing program. So all these guys are throwing again. The situation with Shelby, the way he phrased it was the way the injury was presenting itself did not indicate that he would need surgery. So basically, and he insisted it was not a UCL injury. It was a flexor tendon strain, but there's a long, it's a long muscle, right? So where the injury was indicated that he did not need surgery. The doctors cleared him to begin a throwing program. He did say the words, the doctor said he could pitch through it. So those are not comfortable words to hear. So the way I frame it is, Shelby Miller will not require surgery yet. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, given the way things have gone for this baseball team at this point, you have to have some sort of qualifier anytime you give a positive injury update, right? That's just the nature of the beast at this point. So I mean, that's really positive. I mean, I think based on how things sounded going into the All-Star break, you almost wouldn't have been surprised if you didn't see Shelby Miller for the rest of the season. Maybe that was the end of his Diamondbacks career, given that he's a free agent at the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, I know there's not a specific timeline here, Jack, at this point, but based on what Torey said, it almost sounded like maybe Shelby could pitch like pretty soon. I mean, if he's throwing a bullpen and he feels good, it's not like he's been down for all that long. So I guess if he's able to pitch through it, then maybe the D-backs will have a closer again here at some point. I don't know, maybe this month.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely indicated that the ramp-up time shouldn't be too long because he wasn't down for all that long, right? So, I mean, essentially, for as long as you're down, you need at least that much time to ramp up again. It's a little quicker for relievers, of course. It's not the same as it is for starting pitchers. So, bullpen and then lives, does he go bullpen lives and then back on the roster, or bullpen lives and, a rehab outing? We'll see. I mean, it's possible Shelby Miller could be back within 10 days. Who knows?
To everyone in the chat, we really appreciate you all being here. Be sure to drop a like on the video if you haven't already. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm gods, and we are big fans of that. We see all the comments coming through. Jack, I guess we kind of have to keep an eye on the standings after every game at this point. It is really relevant as the trade deadline draws closer. The Diamondbacks did not gain a game against the third wild card spot specifically today. The San Diego Padres also won in, I believe it was comeback fashion against the Washington Nationals. They had a big ninth inning. So the D-backs remain 5.5 games back of the third wild card spot. They did gain games, of course, on the St. Louis Cardinals, who they beat, as well as the San Francisco Giants, who lost to the Toronto Blue Jays tonight. But it's not really what you're looking for there, Jack. I think the D-backs playoff odds over at Fangraphs started somewhere in the high single digits today. And now, after all these games have been played, it's gone up to 12.2%. That's where they stand after this win.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, they're going to have to reel off 6 in a row. I mean, that's just where it's at. If they're going to entice Mike Hazen, we have an interesting question here that we've discussed before, kind of segues into this as well, from Thad Derbyshire. Any opinion on the concept of being both a seller and a buyer at the deadline? Move on from Naylor in order to get relief help, as an example. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's a possibility. We've talked about that repeatedly here on the show, that there may be some kind of combination buy-sell move. But to get to something that actually looks like a buy-sell, they're going to have to win, at least 5 of the next 6 games. Remember, even though they've got 11 games left, they really need to make their decision by the end of the Astros series. Like, it's got to be cemented and in stone. And look, there may be a deal that just comes up that they got to take. So, we don't know where that's going to shake out. Mike Hazen may be in a situation where 3 days from now, he's just got a deal on the table that is what he wants. And whether that's a buy or a sell move, we'll see. But, for him, any kind of buy move is going to be trying to get controllable pitching that can help him in 2026 and beyond. So is that a buy? I don't know. I mean, if you're thinking about getting a reliever in here that's going to help you for the rest of this year, it's difficult to say that he's going to be able to pull that off. Don't forget, though, that he's also been taking calls on his outfielders. So, there is a possibility of something going on there as well.
I know Torrey was, I believe, asked in his pregame presser today, as well as on the radio, or at least this is a comment that he made with regard to how many wins do you need to have between now and the end of the month in order to convince the Diamondbacks front office to go for it on some level with this season. And Torrey, you don't expect him to give an exact number. The Diamondbacks front office has not given an exact number either. But you did hear Torrey talk about at least being over 500, that's kind of the baseline. If you're under 500, it's really hard to sell to your front office. Like, yeah, we're in this thing, especially given the state of the NL wildcard standings right now. In order for the D-backs to do that, Jack, they have to go 8-4 in these 12 games, which of course they knocked out one of those wins tonight. So now it would be 7-4. I think that feels like something that is at least possible, but I also don't know if I really view that as being enough. I mean, that would put the Diamondbacks at 55-54 at the end of the month. And as you said, you probably want to be able to make this decision a little bit earlier than the very end of the month.
Right, exactly. I mean, they need to get over 500 well before that. And the only way he can do that is to win almost all of the games between now and the next week. So one down. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and I think that's good perspective just after a game like this. It feels good to get back in the win column. It was a fairly dominating win where the offense showed up. The starting pitching was fantastic. Obviously, John Curtis in the ninth inning wasn't so great, but on the whole, it was a pretty complete game from the Diamondbacks, and it really is just one down and a whole lot more to go. I mean, this Diamondbacks team, if they're really going to turn this thing around, they're not, frankly, anywhere close to where they need to be even after this game. So we'll see if the D-backs are able to continue to move things in a positive direction. As far as pitching matchups go here the next couple days, Jack, we have a good one coming on Saturday with Sonny Gray going up against Ryan Nelson. With the way that things have lined up, that should be a fun game. I believe it's on Fox tomorrow. It's a weird start time of 4:15 p.m. So be sure to take note of that. And then on Sunday, I'm MLB.com is not cooperating for me here. Who do we know who the pitching matchups on Sunday, Jack?
Yeah. So give me one sec. So on Sunday we have Merrill Kelly and Miles Mikolas.
There we go. Thank you. So Merrill Kelly, Miles Mikolas to finish up the series, and then I believe it was reported that Zach Gallen will start on Monday, and then we assume Eduardo Rodriguez would start on Tuesday against the Houston Astros. Do you have a sense, Jack, of why the D-backs lined up the rotation in this particular way?
The more we asked about it, it was just, they lined it out. They decided their matchups, and they were looking well beyond this series. I think what they were thinking about was, look, if we're going to be in this thing, we've got to have a game plan for how we're going to win, not just the next 3 games or 6 games. We've got to have a game plan that goes well beyond that. And so they were just mapping out all of that, days off, who they want starting against who. And not one word of it passed the smell test to me. Quite frankly, I don't know why they did this. I can't figure out exactly. But, they obviously made the right choice tonight. As we said earlier, big game Brandon came through again.
There you go. Looking at the chat, again, we love all of you who are here with us and appreciate all of the comments floating in. I do want to pick out one here from Riley Dunn, who asked, in the event of buying a pitcher with control at the deadline, which players/prospects do you see being traded? I know this is a subject we've touched on a little bit already, Jack, but I guess we can throw out a variety of names here. I mean, if the D-backs are really swinging big and trying to go after a starting pitcher who already has big league experience and has some success in the majors and has a lot of control remaining, the price tag there is going to be pretty significant, and it's almost hard to imagine them pulling off a trade like that without Jordan Lawler somehow being involved or at least in consideration at some point.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know that there were some people that weren't very pleased with the way we analyze the potential returns. But I'm just going back to what the general manager himself has been talking about. And just to reemphasize this, Mike Hazen, not Jack Sommers, said to Nick Picoro, hey, I didn't want to give up Slade Ciccone last year because I felt like I might need that depth. And he said other major league teams are going to be hesitant to give up. Anybody that's actually in contention is going to be hesitant to give up a quote unquote major league ready pitcher, right? So when you're selling your free agent rentals, guys with 2+ months, Mike Hazen said we're more likely to get somebody that's, a double-A pitcher that if he's not ready to be in the rotation in the beginning of 2026, maybe by midseason he's there as a depth piece. So that's what he's thinking about as far as what he can get back. Now, obviously he's saying that because he understands the market. Maybe he's lowballing expectations here, and hopefully he can do a little bit better than that. But those types of pitchers are typically somewhere in the 5 to 10, 12 range on other teams' prospect list, depending on how good they are. Now, if you're talking about somebody that has major league experience, is better than any of the prospects that the D-backs currently have, that can slide in and be your 4th or 5th starter, who is that guy? Who are we talking about? Give me a name, and I'll tell you if I think it's realistic.
Yeah, we've talked about a few names. We've talked about Mitch Keller a little bit. We've talked about Edward Cabrera of the Marlins. I floated Yuri Perez of the Marlins when he pitched against the D-backs, a young pitcher with really impressive stuff. If you're going after someone like that, you're gonna give up quite a bit. It's probably going to take a Jordan Lawler and or some other members of your top prospects list. I also think if we're talking about potential names that could be moved, the D-backs still have a surplus of outfielders. It's no secret. Alek Thomas or Jake McCarthy, if a team really wanted one of those guys. I don't know if either of those guys would be a centerpiece in a trade that gets you a big-time starting pitcher. Probably not, but they could be involved. Maybe someone like Blaze Alexander, who has struggled to find playing time in the organization. Obviously, he's up right now getting a little bit of playing time, but maybe he could have more of an opening in another organization to really cement himself as an everyday player.
Yeah, if another team likes Blaze Alexander or Jake McCarthy or, somebody like that, but they're throwing guys, right? You're not building a trade around those guys.
Yeah.
They're sweeteners or whatever, hopeful, that teams are hopeful that, okay, maybe I can, get a little lucky with this guy. Going back to Mitch Keller, if you want Mitch Keller, your trade starts with Jordan Lawler. A lot of people
the Pirates would want it to start with Jordan Lawler. I don't know if the Diamondbacks would go there, but that might be why the trade doesn't happen.
Exactly. And it's not just Jordan Lawler, right? It's Jordan Lawler plus Daniel Egan or something like that. There's something really difficult to swallow.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about the trade deadline for hours upon hours for the rest of the night. We won't do that tonight. But that's what the next couple of weeks are for. We have, of course, 3 episodes every week that we will continue to bring you between now and the trade deadline, as well as beyond that. We really appreciate all of you being here with us in this live post-game show. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video on your way out. It really helps us out a lot. If you're joining us after the fact, you can leave a comment. We would love to hear from you there as well. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already, as we continue to close in on 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. It's a really big benchmark for us to reach. We really appreciate your help in getting us to that point. If you're joining us over on the audio only side of things after the fact, we really appreciate those ratings and reviews as well. You can find us over on social media. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59, and our show is at Snakes Territory. All of those over on Twitter. And of course, Jack does a great job covering the Diamondbacks. You can read all of his work at si.com/MLB/Diamondbacks. Jack, anything else from Chase Field before we say goodbye?
And when you get a chance, go check out my Twitter timeline. I'm modeling a Snakes Territory t-shirt, which you can get at our snakesterritoryshop.com.
There you go. Once you see Jack wearing the t-shirt, your mind will be made up. You'll just realize that you absolutely have to have one. So Jack said it. It's snakesterritoryshop.com. Be sure to get not only your t-shirts, but your coffee mugs and your notebooks and hoodies and all of the things. We have you covered over there. Thank you again to all of you for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back with another episode of Snakes Territory very, very soon.